Welcome to iReview. The biggest mistake in the 5.56 world is thinking every great rifle has to feel like an AR. That single assumption knocks out some of the most interesting platforms ever built. Here at iReview, we like to dig past the marketing hype. Here's the question most shooters never ask before buying a 5.56 rifle. What does this platform actually do better than the one sitting right beside it? Once you ask that, the list changes fast. We know that a bullpup changes the whole size equation. A piston system changes how the rifle runs. A monolithic upper changes how the front end feels. And one old school rifle keeps surviving because shooters trust more than trends. That's why this countdown gets interesting. Today we are breaking down the top 5 best 5.56 NATO rifles dominating the rifle world right now. These are not just 5 tactical 5.56 rifles with good reputations. These are the platforms that keep forcing shooters to choose sides. The Daniel Defense DDMF4 V7 has a tough job. In a sea of 5.56 rifles, it needs to stand out for all the right reasons, without getting weird about it. When curating sequential technical evaluations for media channels, especially when contrasting standard setups with other platforms like the Ruger 1022 or the SAR 9 Compact, you quickly learn to spot when a manufacturer relies on gimmicks. The DDMF4 V7 skips the pitch and focuses entirely on execution. Mechanically, Daniel Defense didn't overcomplicate the design. Here is what you are getting out of the box. A 16-inch cold hammer-forged barrel, a mid-length gas system, a 15-inch MFR M-lock rail. These aren't just specs on a page. They work together to create a careful balance. The mid-length gas system keeps the cycling smooth and reliable. It actively tones down the felt recoil and helps the gun last longer. This is a solid general-purpose 5.56 built by folks who clearly understand what actually matters. There are no oddball controls, and there is no wild new system trying to solve problems that don't exist. Numbers only tell half the story. The real trick here is how the DDM4 V7 feels in the hands. It comes across as refined, but never delicate. It is familiar, but not plain. It feels premium, but not like it's trying too hard. There is no over-the-top sales pitch about how this rifle is going to revolutionize the world. Instead, it leans hard into a classic AR feel, backed by a strong reputation for barrels. Honestly, this is the whole point. When a rifle nails the basics this well, normal isn't boring anymore, it's just dependable. And after all the hype fades, that's the word that keeps bringing shooters back. Dependable. Starting around $2,013 for the standard model, the DDM4 V7 firmly occupies the premium tier. It is not a budget entry, but it justifies its price tag by offering zero compromises on reliability and build quality. From a critical reviewer's perspective, this is a rifle you don't have to make excuses for. It's no wonder people keep recommending the V7. Shooters talk about rifles they'd keep reaching for, and this is undeniably one of those. It proves that trust can come entirely from refinement. If you want a platform that simply works and doesn't fuss about it, the DDM4 V7 quietly commands respect and earns its spot on the rack. The price of perfection. A deep dive into the Geisel Super Duty. In the crowded landscape of 5.56 rifles, there comes a point where you stop paying for flashy gimmicks and start paying for absolute precision. The Geisel Super Duty represents exactly that threshold. This is the point where the little details start costing more. But honestly, it's worth it. When you break down the Geisel 16-inch Super Duty Mod 1, chambered in 5.56mm, you immediately see where the money goes. The rifle is anchored by a cold hammer-forged, chrome-lined barrel with a 1-to-7 twist. Up front, it features a 15-inch Mark 16 rail complete with their center tab, and internally, it runs Geisel's reliability-enhanced bolt carrier group. Weight-wise, the heavy barrel version comes in at about 7 6/10 pounds. However, if you opt for the standard Mod 1, it keeps that same serious build philosophy. Specs on paper are one thing, but how the Super Duty feels in your hands is an entirely different story. The whole rifle feels built around one purpose: eliminate any weak spots before you even find them. Nothing on this rifle is just for show or just to fill a checklist. Every part, the barrel, the rail, the bolt carrier group, feels chosen for one thing: reliability and consistency. You know how some rifles make you start mentally swapping out parts as soon as you pick them up? This one does the exact opposite. It makes you slow down and realize that someone already made the tough decisions for you. From a reviewer's perspective, the Geisel Super Duty is a masterclass in purposeful engineering. Sitting at an MSRP, typically ranging between $2,200 and $2,400, depending on the specific model and finish, it undeniably falls into the premium tier. It is an expensive rifle, but for experienced shooters, that initial investment matters a lot. When a manufacturer does the heavy lifting for you, it means you spend less time second-guessing what to upgrade, and more time actually using the rifle. The Super Duty builds trust, not with some flashy feature, but by simply not letting you down with the details. There are no annoying moments, just consistent performance. Ultimately, the Super Duty perfectly illustrates how much trust can come from refinement. It doesn't need to yell to get your attention. Its competence speaks for itself. Quiet. Respect. The Knights Armament SR-15 system. The Knights Armament SR-15 doesn't get hyped up by serious AR folks. Instead, they talk about it with a kind of quiet respect. In a world obsessed with the loudest marketing and the flashiest trends, the SR-15 shows what happens when the AR platform gets treated like a comprehensive system rather than just a simple parts list. Mechanically, the SR-15 stands out all on its own because of proprietary engineering, not just standard bolt-on accessories. Depending on the model, you'll see fully ambidextrous controls and the highly functional URET M-LOK handguard, which adds to the rifle's versatility. But the core of the platform lies deeper. KAC built the SR-15 around their E3 bolt system. This specific iteration is all about longer life and smoother cycling. The bolt features 2 ejectors, which means less wear and more consistent ejection every single time. If you pick one up and you're new to this world, the SR-15 might not blow you away right out of the gate. But if you know what to look for, you start noticing all the thoughtful details. The real reason people care isn't just because it's proprietary or sounds fancy. KAC actually tackled the little things that most brands just ignore. Bolt life, how the gun ejects, rail setup, and how the gas system runs. These are the nuances that only really matter if you care about how your rifle feels after thousands of rounds. It isn't trying to win points for being the loudest or flashiest. It is built for shooters who want all the common AR issues already sorted out by a company that knows its stuff. With an MSRP generally sitting between $3,000 and $3,300 for a complete factory rifle, the SR-15 demands a serious premium because it is highly sought after by professionals and enthusiasts alike. Finding them in stock can be challenging, which sometimes drives street prices higher. However, when evaluating if it's worth the heavy price tag, it is tough to argue against it once you actually dig into the details. That's why so many people swear the praise is over the top, right up until they run the rifle themselves. It is still an AR, just with a completely different spin. Ultimately, if your philosophy dictates that you want absolute, unquestionable durability, where all potential weak links are engineered out from the factory, the SR-15 easily earns its legendary status. Tossing the rulebook, the IWI X95 Tavor. When it comes to the 5.56 platform, most rifles stubbornly stick to a very standard, predictable setup. The action sits up front, the magazine feeds before your shoulder, and a long barrel pokes out ahead. The IWI Tavor X95 completely throws out that rulebook. It doesn't feel like an AR that was just shrunk down. Instead, it comes across as a whole new idea in how rifles should operate. The X95 flicks traditional design on its head with its bullpup layout, placing the action behind the trigger. This means you still get the full ballistic advantage of a full-length barrel, but the entire package is substantially more compact. Here's exactly what you get with the X95 setup: a 16.5-inch barrel, an overall length of just over 26 inches, a total weight of around 7 9/10 pounds. Additionally, the tough yet lightweight polymer bullpup stock allows you to load up standard AR mags, fold down the backup sights, and even utilize a tritium front sight for low-light moments on the 5.56 model. If you are someone who shoots a lot, Stepping behind the X95 feels like a breath of fresh air. You experience proper 5.56 performance, but without all the awkward, heavy front end associated with a traditional carbine. The difference hits you right away because the weight stays tucked in close to your body. With the front end cut down, the rifle just moves better. Whether you're navigating tight spots, maneuvering around barriers, or bench shooting, having less barrels sticking out ahead of you changes everything. Sure, you have to get used to how a bullpup handles, and it is admittedly not for everyone. However, once it clicks, that shorter build really wins people over, and suddenly your old carbine feels like a clumsy broomstick. Currently sitting at an MSRP of $1,999, with street prices often hovering around $1,750, the X95 Tavor commands a premium price tag. While that investment is significant, it buys you proven Israeli military pedigree and an incredibly robust operating system. From a critical standpoint, it may not be the safest or most classic option on the market. The manual of arms requires a learning curve, and the trigger pull is traditionally heavier than a match-grade AR. Yet that is exactly why so many people stick with it. It is definitively the rifle that makes you rethink what you actually want out of your gear. If you want uncompromising maneuverability without sacrificing barrel length, the X95 remains the undisputed king of the modern bullpup market. The catalyst of controversy, the FN SCAR 16S. When evaluating the vast landscape of 5.56 platforms, it becomes clear that shooters do not stay loyal to hype. They stay loyal to confidence. But what happens when confidence is mixed with heavy debate? The FN SCAR 16S isn't on this list because everybody loves it. It's here because nobody can agree about it. People just keep arguing, and that makes it one of the most fascinating rifles on the market. FN calls it a 5.56 by 45mm rifle, and out of the box, you are getting a very specific set of dimensions. It features a 16.25-inch barrel. It weighs in at 8 7/10 pounds. Overall length ranges anywhere from 34 3/4 to 37.25 inches, depending entirely on how you've got the stock set up. You can run it with either a 10 or 30-round magazine. While those specs lay the foundation, the newer SCAR 16S boasts more than 25 upgrades. The standout feature is a hydraulically buffered two-piece bolt carrier. This specific engineering choice actively cuts down on recoil and helps you fire again quicker. Specs matter, sure, but how this rifle feels matters even more. The moment you pick it up, you realize it is not just another AR. It has its own style, its own quirks, and its own deeply loyal followers. The handling of the SCAR 16S is where the community divides. Some shooters complain it is too heavy. Others gripe about the accessories or simply cannot connect with how the rifle balances in the hands. Yet, on the other side of the spectrum, there are folks who pick it up and instantly get why people obsess over it. That divide actually means something. Boring guns do not spark endless debates. The SCAR 16S has a distinct personality, and that is exactly what gets people talking. Priced in the high-end premium tier with a standard MSRP, hovering around $3,799, the SCAR 16S demands a massive financial commitment. It is one of the most expensive 5.56 assault-style platforms available to civilians, forcing buyers to heavily weigh the cost of entry against its legendary military pedigree. From a critical perspective, whether you hate it or love it, you can see why everyone else trusts it. That is a pretty unusual trait for a firearm. This rifle proves that you can have controversy and credibility, all wrapped up in one single package. When a gun keeps surviving this much arguing, the market is undeniably saying something. It proves that controversy does not kill a rifle when its identity is strong enough. It is not the safe pick, but it's definitely not dull. At the end of the day, the real lesson was never that one rifle makes every other 5.56 irrelevant. The lesson is sharper than that. Shooters don't stay loyal to hype, they stay loyal to confidence. Looking back at the list, the DDM4 V7 and Super Duty show how much trust can come from refinement. The SR-15 shows what happens when the AR platform gets treated like a system, not a parts list. And the SCAR proves that controversy does not kill a rifle when the identity is strong enough. Now it is time to turn it over to the iReview community. Put your pick in the comments. Which rifle is too high? Which one got robbed? Which 5.56 platform would you keep if the rest had to go? If there's a correction, bring evidence. That's how serious comment sections get better. Thanks for tuning in to iReview. Stay sharp, stay confident, and we will see you on the next one.